Hello everyone, my name is Dockery. This is my friend Drew. Today we'll be having a video podcast on biotoxins and their effect on health and lifestyle. How it's going to work, he has some questions. I will be answering to the best of my ability with the resources I have provided. And we'll go ahead and get started.
Alright, so jumping right into it, for some of us that haven't been to a science class since high school, decade plus time frame, what exactly are biotoxins?
So biotoxins are substances that are both toxic and of biological origin.
Okay.
They come from just about every single living organism, not like literally every single organism, but every type of organism. From fungi to animals to plants, and specifically we'll be talking about some phytoplankton and marine-based biotoxins, because biotoxins is an extremely broad topic, and marine biotoxins affect us the most.
Makes sense. So, speaking of affecting us the most, what are some of these effects? Like, what does the normal day-to-day person have to look forward to, so to speak, as far as, some of these symptoms and causes for these biotoxins?
So, seafood is a huge basis on pretty much the entire globe's diet. And we've all suffered from food poisoning at some point. You can't really leave home, can't really go to work, you need to be, kind of close to a bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, according to Hendrickson in the marine biotoxins and associated outbreaks following seafood consumption, the most common signs and symptoms among cases were memory loss, confusion, headache, skin rash, burning skin, like if you're entering an estuary where there's been an algae outbreak such as red tide, all the way to the most extreme versions of paralysis and even death.
Wow. Okay. It seems like that makes it kind of difficult because these symptoms that you mentioned, right, are symptoms of a vast variety of things. So it seems like it would be pretty difficult to go and pinpoint what exactly is the cause of this.
Right.
But what technology has progressed so much these days. We're talking about pinpointing things and being able to diagnose things. What kind of difference does technology make as far as being able to do anything about biotoxins?
Well, without technology, we would have no way to even track what's going on. So technology right now, the biggest means that it's made is allowing us to measure how much is in our food, to see where it's happening, why it's happening, how it's affecting us. But the biggest problem is the symptoms are so versatile that unless someone goes to the doctor for those specific reasons because they had something like mollusks, we're going to have no way that was biotoxin that caused their problem.
Sure. Okay. So it sounds like a lot of what we can do about it is preventative actions, right? So not so much fix the issue as it's happening, but kind of identifying and pinpointing prior and then moving from there. How long have we known about biotoxins?
So biotoxin is actually a fairly young problem. It's always been around. We've always known about things like snake venom and spider bites and stuff like that is considered biotoxins. But as far as marine life biotoxins, that started in 1987. With amnesic shellfish poisoning, also known as ASP. It was also known as domoic acid poisoning, or DAP. And in 1987, it was found on the Prince Edward Island in Canada. This all comes from Egmont, who wrote an article about amnesic shellfish poisoning, and in 1987, 3 people had already died, and there was 105 other symptoms, or 105 other cases of acute human poisoning following the consumption of blue mussels. Okay. Well, in October 1991, extracts of razor clams from the coast of Oregon were found to induce DAP, acid-like symptoms, in mice. Once we started experimenting on mice, that's when U.S. regulatory services started to really take notice and begin to set regulations for this.
Okay. Well, it does sound like it's a pretty widespread thing for So outside of the United States, like what other areas are affected by biotoxins significantly?
Well, really anywhere water touches.
Okay.
When we're sticking to marine biotoxins, anywhere water touches from the both the Americas, Africa, Asia, like literally anywhere that touches.
Yeah.
But specifically, the European food legislation focused also on mollusks. They gave space even to them within the regulations to the area of hygiene. Interestingly enough, maximum limits for marine biotoxins were caught in some samples, established monitoring and sample plans. So the regulations they specifically made was regulation number 853/2004, which established, yeah, I know, right? It's very specific.
Yeah.
Establishes monitoring and sampling plans in the production areas of live bivalve mollusks.
Okay.
The other is regulation number 853/2004, which provides the maximum limits of marine biotoxins. And although they did not give the maximum limits, and getting into those regulations is hard to find, they base their maximum off of 400 grams of shellfish. So every 400 grams, they take this sample, and they're getting these samples during harvesting seasons. During the harvesting seasons, as they take them, they sample them, and every 400 grams, if it's high, they dispose of it, and if it's low, they go ahead and go to consumption. They're not the only ones though. Italy also has a shellfish monitoring program that has been in effect since 1997. And since then, the program's focus has been to study amnesic shellfish poison, paralytic shellfish poison, and lipophilic toxins, which are known to cause problems in the endocrine system.
Okay.
The endocrine system, for those of us that don't remember or haven't been in a class for a while, is a collection of glands that produce hormones that regulate metabolism, growth, development, tissue function, reproduction, sleep, mood, pretty much everything that hormones affect. All of this came from Etheridge, which is all about paralytic shellfish poisoning, seafood safety, and human health perspectives.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I can come up with as far as other countries right now.
Okay, that's fair. It sounds like my next question you touched a lot on. So, a lot of it has to do with tracking and doing tests and then setting these regulations. Is there anything else that you can think of that governments might do or have done to possibly prevent the widespread of biotoxins?
Well, actually, they have another regulation, which is number 2074/2005, which specifically highlights that the proposed maximum levels are based on provisional data.
Okay.
And they'll be reassessed once new scientific evidence becomes available. So essentially, they don't have enough research done yet.
Yeah.
It's still such a young issue that it's hard to pinpoint things that when you get these symptoms, you just, take some Tums, spend your time at home, when you get better, you go.
Yeah.
So, but even then, the U.S. is also on top of it. They are mirroring a lot of what Europe is doing. It's all a matter of tracking, trying to pinpoint the issues, fix the people that have the issues, and then try and prevent it from there.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess my final question is, what do we as human beings have to look forward to as far as the future of biotoxins?
So biotoxins, they are a huge health risk for us, and the seafood is a huge part of our lifestyle. That's never going to go away. But we also cause a lot of the problems. In the Etheridge, where once again the paralytic shellfish poisoning, seafood safety, estuary kills, which red tide, stuff like that happens in Florida, the coast of the Carolinas, where a fungi spreads, kills a bunch of the fish in there, and then just the air being around that and being in the water starts to cause us health problems. But the problem is we're causing a lot of that issue. Pollution, primary pollution, everything that we do is getting into the water, which then the mollusks are filtering that water, and then we're either eating those or something else is eating those that we are and then end up eating, and then we get ourselves sick.
Yeah.
So at that point, we need to stay on top of everything that has been moving forward with recycling and cleaning everything up and getting basically limiting our carbon footprint, which it sounds very hippie-like, but essentially we're making ourselves sick by not doing this.
Yeah.
The more that we pollute the waters, we're eating out of these waters, so we're just immediately putting it back into our own bodies.
Exactly. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what our future looks forward to, as hopefully technology gets better and they reevaluate everything. And for that, that is going to be the end of our presentation.
Hey.
Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks.